I'm Aaron Dykes. This is the InfoWars Nightly News, and we are back from break. We're joined now by a researcher who's become one of our main contributors as well. That is Jurjen Masson, and he's here to discuss the Bilderberg Group, the larger population reduction agenda, and more. He joins us from the Netherlands. Thanks for joining us, Jurjen.
Thanks for having me.
So we just broke the story today. It's up on InfoWars. Sources so far are indicating the meeting will most likely be held in Chantilly, Virginia, here in the United States. It's been 4 years. They, of course, split their meetings between Europe and the United States. We'll follow up on that source to see if it is the true location, because they do a lot of bait and switching and deception, but it is a very likely spot. So with that, let's talk about the upcoming Bilderberg Group meeting and what their agenda is likely to be.
Their agenda is likely to be a continuation, I think, of the agenda we already know. That's population reduction, a large part of that. And to get this done, the entire economical, political system has to be arranged in such a way that it facilitates such a massive reduction.
Absolutely. And of course, they have demography groups that meet every year. They have United Nations Population Fund groups that attend Bilderberg regularly. You've got the Rockefeller Foundation, who've really been the core driving the eugenics agenda over the past century. Now the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is a major player in pursuing that eugenics agenda. They don't attend every year, but they tend to attend every 1 to 2 to 3 years. So we're likely to see them there. A lot of the top tech giants come, as well as, of course, the heads of state and the office, the officials in various departments as well from both Europe and the United States. And that's definitely something they have planned. Of course, Agenda 21 is back on the agenda this year because it's the 20-year anniversary of the summit in Rio, which is all about sustainable development, economic growth, greening everything. But it also is in a large component about population reduction. And we've got one of our staff members, John, just showed me earlier today how the President's Council on Sustainable Development here in the United States, set up for the Agenda 21, is not only pursuing sustainable development, but stabilizing the U.S. population. It's right here in writing, put into the agenda from Bill Clinton, as well as the elder George Bush. And that's just here in the U.S. They're openly doing it all across the rest of the world, particularly in the developing areas.
Right, they all seem to move in unison. All the arms of the scientific dictatorship now, you see it in every country, you see it almost simultaneously. That's not a coincidence, of course, that's pre-planned. Of course, the calls for deindustrialization of the developed world is also a theme that regularly comes up, and it's all being done under under perfectly decent euphemisms. Let's say sustainability, save the planet, and all that. We know from their own documents that's just euphemisms for mass death.
Yeah, and that's something to bring up, too. You've got the article yesterday. It's right here. Professor depicts blood-depicting knife machine gun while talking population control. And this is a Professor John Guillebaud from University College. He's an emeritus professor, and he's coined the term population matters. And the point he's trying to make is that, yes, these are euphemisms. He openly admits they use different terms as code for population control. And he's saying, just do away with the code. Let's come out in the open and tell people what we're doing. I've got another book here that goes along with that. It's the RAND Corporation's report on the origin and evolution of family planning programs in developing countries. And this is eugenics. They've changed the name dozens of times over the years. After World War II, it became population control. That became a buzzword that people learned to avoid. So they came up with these other terms: reproductive health, women's issues, sustainable development, and on and on. They've literally coined these terms every couple of years at United Nations meetings. So please get into that and the details of your article.
Yes, this Guillebaud fellow, he's actually quoted as saying, while showing a depiction of a blood-dripping knife and a machine gun, he said, please don't say population control. That's what he literally said. Say any other thing. Use my phrase, population matters. So that's a nice little tinkling. But never say population control. That's what he said. Then there was this gentleman over in the 2006 gathering organized by the German Development Bank. Present were the United Nations Population Fund and all the other usual suspects, World Bank, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, of course, where this professor of medical demography at the London School of Hygiene, John Cleland, indeed admitted that all modern-day language used in relation to this agenda they seek to pursue is actually code. No more shrouding our statements in code. That's what he said, because code just confuses people. Very interesting, because it's all euphemism, and here he actually admits to it.
And you also point out it's what they call a thinly veiled threat. They say, quote, reduce human population numbers voluntarily or else. That's actually your summation of it. But it is this open threat, and it corresponds with images we've been shown, particularly in climate change propaganda, where you see the teacher pushing the red button and it blows up children who don't want to go along with curbing their carbon footprint, and so on and so forth. We've seen dozens, if not hundreds, of these examples, and they're telling us covertly in the propaganda, in the media, they want to kill us, that our life is invaluable, that they want to save the earth by reining in the population numbers. But they also tell us, go along with our agenda and everything will be all right.
Right, trying to scare us into this submission or submissive state where we will just accept about anything, and that's the entire thing. They resort to these kind of tactics, and that means they have a weakness. And this weakness by the elite is they know that a lot of people, despite all the propaganda for the last decades, still have an instinctive resistance to all this massive propaganda going on. So I think this is also a good sign, in a way, that they just use open death threats towards mankind. That's because they know we only by death threats they may have a chance.
And if you've studied this stuff in depth, as you and I have and many others in our audience have, how could you go along with it knowing that they brag about spiking the vaccines, brag about putting poisons in the foods and developing GMO strains that are at the very least dangerous? We covered earlier today how several years ago, back in 2002, they were open-air experimenting with experimental vaccines, strains of what was to become an AIDS virus, blood-clotting agents, on and on, all kinds of very potentially dangerous stuff that they were growing in America's Midwest Corn Belt, where they grow the food for our country and much of the rest of the world. And the possibilities for open-air contamination are right there, and it's just another suggestion of how where this road could lead, really.
Right. I think, and then we all have the UN to thank for this agenda going on right now, because it's, of course, Codex Alimentarius in action. We see that in the crops. We see it in the vaccines with the help of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, especially in the third world, which the eugenicists and the elite right now want to begin by depopulating for a large part, because they know that the West is a little bit more challenging for them. So indeed, we see well, all these arms moving in the same direction, attempting to, I think, reduce our fertility in first instance, but well, it's actually, of course, for death.
I want to go back to the Bilderberg Group and the larger eugenics agenda. Of course, eugenics, the proper term for it, started in the late 1800s under the circles around T.H. Huxley, of course, Sir Francis Galton, and his cousin Darwin. And they brought that to light. It became very popular in the West, especially in the United States. It's very popular in Germany, which later developed into Nazi Germany eugenics. It was very popular in the Netherlands and the rest of Europe, and really across the Western world. As that developed, you also see simultaneously the cartel, IG Farben, out of the Nazi regime, and their secret partnership with the United States, with the Netherlands in particular. How did those factions come to form what we know as the Bilderberg Group? What's the role of people like Prince Bernhard, admittedly one of the founders of Bilderberg, as well as environmental groups, the World Wildlife Fund, and the other clubs you've mentioned, the 1001 Club, and so forth and so on?
I think the Second World War, which was in essence, of course, brought into being with the aim of creating two separate blocks, which is the United States on the one hand, the West on the one hand, and the East on the other, is of course the illusion of a war or a battle in which they can sustain their policies. You need fear to sustain these policies of mass population reduction, and you need to do it incrementally. And I think the Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands setting up this Bilderberg meeting officially to repair or relations with the United States and Europe, but actually to form a group that could make policy in full impunity. Pursuing their agenda. And of course, it's the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha family involved in this. So you see involved in all these meetings are people of the European royal elite. Those are the people with enormous amounts of resources, land also. People forget about that sometimes, but they have such an enormous amount of land that they actually wanted to call the shots inside a unofficial group. I think that's the Bilderberg Group. The real reason behind it is population control.
And what do you find in your research with the phony environmental movements, particularly World Wildlife Group, among others?
Well, you have that, what was it, Earth Hour? Earth Hour was this sign that everybody should, put out the lights, dim the lights for the Earth. And the World Wildlife Fund, the same here. It was also founded by Bernhard on the one hand and Julian Huxley on the other. He was co-founder of the World Wildlife Fund. Again,
back to the heart of eugenics. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. He is the eugenicist of the 20th century, and he of course himself was an heir to the older eugenicists, Galton type characters. So you see this genealogy of sociopaths running things, having the resources for it, and they set up this World Wildlife Fund to really invade the continent of Africa in first instance, under the pretext of wanting to save wildlife, wanting to save the earth, wanting to help the people there. But actually what they did was capture the resources of the continent. I just recently wrote an article about that, so it's very sickening.
Yeah, just to dovetail, of course, one of the other founders, Prince Philip of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, who said he wants to come back to Earth as a virus to lower human population level, another World Wildlife Fund initiator. And as you mentioned, it's land grabbing and its population reduction in combination, which goes along perfectly with the Agenda 21 for Sustainable Development, coined, of course, 20 years ago under the United Nations and still being pursued very actively today. And all this continues because under the presidency of Obama, you've got John P. Holdren, who is himself a successor to decades and decades of covert eugenics, covert population reduction, and this larger land grab under the United Nations. Julian Huxley, who you mentioned, not only is a eugenicist, third-generation eugenicist at that, and part of a larger family breeding program, but he wanted to specifically fuse in a kind of alchemical way the West with the particularly Soviet-led East into the world government. That's his theory in his 1946 document, UNESCO, Its Purpose and Philosophy. He really talks about fusing those systems together, developing the education and the culture and the science under his umbrella at UNESCO.
Right, and using the state the state as the engine to make sure these policies will be executed. So that's why the Soviet system was worked perfectly fine, just like China does right now, because it works on a collectivistic basis, and people are used to that over there. And now they have to get used to all these new environmental friendly policies, this virtuous green road. Which was described by a UN thinker in the early 90s, calling it a virtuous green road, while all the documents are definitely pointing to one agenda, which has an aim of reducing population, reducing fertility, and to do it incrementally. So it's a very smart and sophisticated thing, which we have to constantly investigate.
Incremental is the key word. Let's get into a little bit the Fabian socialists, because that's the group that includes both Huxley brothers, Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World, Julian Huxley of UNESCO, George Orwell was once in that group, H.G. Wells was in that group, and a lot of other very famous, very prominent writers who all wanted this progressive, long-term, 100-year increment for socialism. That's apparently why George Orwell named his novel 1984. It was the 100-year anniversary of the 1884 founding of the Fabian Socialists, and many people don't know they went from their core place in Britain over to Soviet Russia, studied their system, applauded what they were doing, and they came back, according to the founder of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, Alfred Toynbee, and said, this is our new 10 commandments. This is what Moses came down from the mountain with from God. We have the 10 planks of communism. We want this, but we want it slowly so no one will stop it, no one will notice what's going on. And that's what you see in a larger pattern under the United Nations form of acclimating the whole world to a world government system.
Right, and it's actually more than just communism or socialism in the Marxist sense. That's just a theory, but the UN is above these differences of communism and capitalism, creating them, in fact. So there's nothing to do with class warfare, this Fabian socialist society. It has everything to do with elitism.
Because they're the wolves in sheep's clothing. You're totally right. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I couldn't agree more.
Well, we've got a lot of the same research. That's why it's easy to agree. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. That's fine, because I mean that's all about to say. It's wolves in sheep clothing. That's it. And they have this agenda for such a long time that it's all written down. That right now we have to move forward, I think, to a next level of just beating these people at every turn. Every time they put out a new report, put out a new, working paper or something, we just have to report on this constantly. Everybody should do this. Everybody who feels impulse to do this. Start your own blog and just write about this, because we need so much more people involved in this fight.
Well, in closing, looking ahead to the upcoming Bilderberg conference, if the location's wrong, we're going to correct that, of course. But whether it's in the U.S. or Europe, we have seen this year a great coalescing around the global warming, climate change agenda, realizing that's falling apart on its scientific merits and its political drive and so forth. They've been more and more out in the open, moving towards just it's for population reduction. Have you seen this as well?
Yes, just lately, I think the last year or so, they started over from personal carbon quotas and all that, just to saying we need just global carbon cops and all that. This Earth Summit 2012 promoters calling for global implementation of personal carbon quotas, but they also called, and that's very disturbing, securing commitments from governments to try to stabilize global population. That's the quote. Stabilize the global population. Also, they want an international court for the environment to settle disputes. Mm-hmm. Which means you can go to jail because your carbon footprint is a little bit too big. This echoes the death threat made by the use of this commercial with children. So this is just off the chart madness.
Well, I think you hit it on the nail on the head. It's elitist coming out from their hiding in sheep's clothing and saying, we're going to kill you if you don't go along with our agenda. So you better go along with it. Just kidding. We're sheep. We're not really wolves. And we're doing this for everyone's good. And it's to save the earth. But if you don't go along with it, you're next. Well, anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's a very dark energy we feel from these people emanating from them. So we all have to step up a little bit. I think everybody looking just to fight these people.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Jurriën. Of course, we'll look to your research in the future. Your articles are at Infowars.com, and are they on one of your blogs as well?
I don't even have a blog yet, but I do write a lot. So, but I still have to build a blog. I'm in the process of doing that right now.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to your reports in the future. Thanks again for joining us. That's it for tonight's InfoWars Nightly News. We'll be back again tomorrow with Darren McBreen. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Spread the word. Don't forget to subscribe at prisonplanet.tv. Help us fund our fight against the controlled media, against the globalists, and against their larger agenda.